welcome back to Otaku no Videos. Always, thank you very much for joining me for my review of the first volume of Please Save My Earth, the classic shoujo manga, which, kind of to my surprise, I really thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, I thought since this was a classic of the shoujo, I would go back and I'd be okay, I appreciate the quality and how revolutionary and so forth, but no, this was really funny, and the characters were distinctive, but I'll get more to that in a minute. This was released from 1987 to 1994 in Japan, so it has been around a while. A total of 21 volumes. Long story. And as of 2006, over 15 million copies of Please Save My Earth have been sold. So it's one of the best-selling manga ever, never mind shoujo. The basic premise surrounds a couple of teenagers, particularly a girl who feels kind of out of place with her life. And she notices some of her classmates acting strangely and ends up talking to them about it and finds out they're having a shared dream. So when they sleep at night, they dream something, and when they wake up, they realize they've dreamt the same thing but from different perspectives. And these characters all begin to realize that they're all remembering another incarnation. If you're familiar with Buddhism, you know the Buddhists believe that when you die, you're reincarnated as another creature, hopefully a human. And that cycle continues. And so they've realized they're somehow accessing some other incarnation that they were all in, because one of the ideas of Buddhism and so forth is that you kind of repeat things until your karma is worked out. So you tend to get into the same sort of relationships, and often with the same people, just in different bodies or in new bodies. So in this shared dream, they're on this space station, apparently on the moon, that's looking out at Earth. And they all really love the Earth. And there's this whole big thing about the Earth. And they're not, the teenagers don't know what's going on. They're just kind of dumped into these dreams halfway in. So they're trying to figure out the relationships. And that's where things get interesting, because the characters on the moon all have these complex relationships, love and so forth and so on. And these teenager characters have different relationships, but they're starting to kind of reflect some of those relationships. And it creates these interesting questions of, well, where do feelings come from, really? If I see a pretty girl and I instantly feel an attraction to her, that feeling was kind of programmed into me. I didn't choose to feel that. So, are those the result of our prior actions? And if so, where does free will fit into any of this? As they start realizing that their relationships are mirroring these other relationships, are they just destined to do that? Are they just experiencing them again? All sorts of interesting existentialist questions as a result of this. And so the characters start to deal with this. And again, this is all premise, all set up material. Now, one thing I really appreciated about this story is the fact that the characters are distinctive and they act realistically. When there's something strange going on, they'll talk about it. They'll deal with it. Now, the girl, for example, when she realizes what's happening, doesn't immediately run to her parents and say, guess what, I'm dreaming about another incarnation. But that's realistic too. A lot of us when we were teenagers didn't tell our parents everything that we did. And so there's a lot of very realistic behavior between the characters, of seeing something weird and investigating and asking about it, and not keeping weird secrets. And the characters are distinctive without falling into stereotypical cliches. There's not the very pretty boy who's kind of aloof and kind of jokes about everything, that kind of thing. All the characters feel reasonably realistic. There's no one really over the top, which is very so nice after reading a lot of other manga that doesn't do that. Now, in terms of dialogue, because this volume is mostly set up, there's not a lot of very distinctive dialogue between the characters, since we're just getting to know them, and frankly, the author is still sort of figuring out, where the manga is going to go. It takes a while for an author to get used to those character voices. So it certainly works, but there's nothing really hugely remarkable there to talk about. The artwork is very 80s. Now, this is not a complaint, but there's a roundedness to 80s manga. And there's also a very pleasant balance between lots of environment and background and focusing in on the characters' faces and so forth. You have this issue with a shoujo story, which is very emotional. You want to really show how the characters are reacting. So you need to zoom in on those faces and let the backgrounds kind of fade away for certain amounts of the time. And it's become common for modern shoujo to almost ignore background. You know, there'll be very few panels with actual backgrounds in them. And in this one, we get a nice balance between that. We really know where characters are situated and what's going on and so forth. But once we get into really intense sequences, those backgrounds fade away because we don't want to be distracted by the detail of backgrounds. We want to really focus in on those characters' specific facial expressions and feelings of uncertainty, and that complexity is very important in a story like that. So kudos there. And you may need to spend some time getting used to that style. But again, I don't think it's hard to look at in any way, shape, or form. I'll also thank the author for the fact that the characters do look distinctive. You know, it's so easy to have all the boys kind of look the same. So good job there. Overall, it's quite a believable story, actually. It's characters, like I said before, you know, investigate things, and then they ask questions of each other, which is so nice. But they don't do that for everything. It's really nice. I'm repeating myself, I realize. So that's really my reaction to Please Save My Earth. Everything comes together. Again, you'll have to get used to the art a little bit, perhaps, but it's a very original concept filled with distinctive characters who are starting to grapple with some very unusual issues, and done in a way that is very expressive and really gets across what it's trying to express. So kudos for that. All 21 volumes were released over here in America in the mid-2000s, and it's also seen print runs in other countries. However, like that release in America was done in the mid-2000s, so availability is getting a little funky. You know, certain volumes are available at some websites, but not others, and things like that. So if you want it, I'd advise tracking it down soon. If you've seen Please Save My Earth and want to talk about it, or lots of other interesting manga or anime, please stop by the website at otakunovideo.net, where we have a forum you can talk about it, a chat room, all sorts of interesting stuff, as well as I will start a thread on the forum just for Please Save My Earth, so we can talk about it more there too. So that's my thoughts, and until next time, please keep looking for awesome manga.